So on your driving lessons, do you ever feel the car stop with a bit of a jolt when you come to the lights, or be it at a giveaway, or even just pulling up on the left hand side of the road? I find it to be quite a common occurrence on driving lessons, particularly in people who are just starting out. Call it the jolt, because you get this jolt as the car stops, and it just comes from being a little bit too heavy with the brakes. But more so, it comes from just not understanding the physics of how the car is moving. So your car is heavy. I mean, it probably weighs just under a ton. That's a heavy lump, a heavy mass that we're moving along. And when we try and stop this heavy lump, it moves forward the weight. So if I get one of my little toy cars here, as we brake, the weight is wanting to do this. And that's what's actually happening. All the weight's being transferred forward. And then when we stop, the car jolts forward, then it rests back. So when you're slowing down, you want to be trying to think of the weight of the car. Ideally, and when I say ideally, because sometimes you have got to press them brakes heavily, but ideally you want to be braking steadily and progressively harder on the brake pedal, bringing the car to a stop. So the earlier you get on your brakes, the smoother the car's going to stop. It's better for the car as well, because you're not stressing the brake pads out and the brake discs as much as you do when you brake heavily and late. Also, just before the car stops, we want to have the confidence to be easing back off the brake a little bit. So it might sound a little bit odd to say ease off the brake just as you're stopping. The brakes are still on, they're just not on as much. Now, I say to a lot of my learners when they first start driving, we don't want to treat the controls of the car like on-off switches. The brakes are like that. So if I get a pen and hold my pen, I can hold it very, very, very gently in my hand, or I can grab it as hard as I like. And there's everything in between, every different level of pressure in between. So think of your brakes like that, gently on the brakes, apply a bit of pressure as you need to, as you're coming towards the point where you need to stop. Just before you stop, you can start easing back off the brakes, and what that does, it flattens the car out before it stops, rather than that jolt forward and then back. I will try and demonstrate it from this seat. It's not ideal to see on a video, but certainly I will just sit normally and you will see me move forward a little bit, hopefully. Right, so the car's doing roughly 20 miles per hour, as it should be. If I brake heavily now, you see me come forward in my seat, and then I go back. That's the jolt. It's the weight going forward, car stops, then I go back. So let's move off again, and we'll demonstrate that. Stopping more progressively. So up to 20 miles per hour on the brakes, but gently. Little bit of brake, little bit of brake. I'm going to turn left here. A little bit of brake, little bit of brake. Just before a stop, ease off, gently squeeze to a stop, and then move away. Note, no jolt, no movement in my seat. That's because I'm easing off right at the very, very end of my stop. So the jolt, just think of the weight of the car. Anyone that's ever ridden a bike, a push bike, what's going to happen if you jam them brakes on too heavily? If it's the front brake, you're going to go with the handlebars. Another way to think of it is, if you're doing your shopping and you've got a big heavy trolley full of food or something like that, if you try and stop that all at once, it's quite difficult to do. So if you try and stop it steadily, it just becomes a little bit more easier to control. And that's all we're doing with the brakes, really. And a bit of it's trust. A lot of it is practice and gaining experience of your car and how it moves, how it feels, the characteristics of a vehicle. So I say to most learners, we'll do, like, say, a specific lesson. It could be you're doing roundabouts or whatever it would be. So on your roundabouts lesson, you get your briefing on your roundabouts, and we'd be roundabout heavy, if you like, on that particular lesson. But in the middle of all of that, you're still gaining loads of experience of how the car moves, how much pressure you need on the brakes, how much pressure you need on the gas, when to brake, when to ease off, how much steering to use, all those types of things. So everything comes from experience. I mean, I can recall myself doing my first, few driving lessons, and I used to get home and say to my dad, every time I stop the car's it's come to a jolt, it's come to an abrupt stop. And he taught me through a couple of things which, to be fair, didn't make as much sense as I would have liked. But what he did say was, you just need experience, you just need to feel how that car moves around, and you become a lot more confident, and it'll do what you want it to do. So that's how you bring the car to a nice steady stop. Thanks for watching.